Everybody, my name is Max and welcome back to From the Depths. This is our Season 3 beginning fleet review. I know, quite a mouthful to actually say that. But today we're going to go through all the ships that I currently have in the fleet. Starting off, of course, at the smallest, the Destroyer, the Conclusive class. Is it good? No. Is it speedy? Kinda. Is it stable? Definitely not. A couple things that are going to happen to the Conclusive class. Since you guys last saw it, I did move some of the weight down with some lead inside. I'm also just adding these propellers now, before I forget, because these are going to hopefully keep the bow down, because the Conclusive class has an unhelpful habit of pitching up, rolling over, and then dying. It's very unfortunate. Technically, the second smallest ship is the Bubble class sub, which somehow, despite all these years and all these seasons that I've done, is still in the fleet. And I keep saying, every time I see it, I keep going, oh, we're going to replace the Bubble class. But I never do, because quite frankly, the Bubble class does its job. Does it do it well? No. But does it do a job? Yes. It carries large torpedoes to an enemy, it submerges when it sees an enemy, and it fires its torpedoes at them. It also has a small anti-aircraft gun, because, you know, requirements, and it's got these torpedoes on top as well. Is it great? No. But for some reason, I just can't bring myself to get rid of it, because it does its job. It does its job, and it does it well. It's even quite speedy, to be honest. Like, it's not even bad in the speed department. Like, the Warrior class light cruiser. I believe the Warrior class is the second oldest ship in the fleet. It's still named as an IN, which is Imperial Navy, which is going to be changing to HMCS at some point, probably whenever I actually build it in the campaign. It fires some solid shot railguns. They've got the flat heads, so they squash and then they rip a large hole in it. It's pretty good. It's not great. Again, it's one of the oldest ones, so it does have some of the old design choices, like, you know, torpedoes strapped to it wherever I could, and a CWIS system, which was kind of an afterthought. Also, very, very slow rate of fire on that thing, but still, it's a ship. It brings to bear a little bit more firepower compared to our other light cruiser, which could be useful at some point. Will it be... I mean, I don't know how useful it will be, because to be honest, I never actually built that in the old Season 3. I never actually got round to doing it, but I've left it in the fleet because I can't bring myself to get rid of it. Hello everybody, Future Max here. I was just editing the video and I realized I said old Season 3. So, I already recorded Season 3 about like a month or two ago, and I lost most of the footage for it. So, it was my own fault, I deleted the file. So when I say old Season 3, I'm referring to that Season 3. And this is the new Season 3. So that's why some of the ships that you might be seeing are slightly different, or they look slightly different, or they've been modified. And we've got a couple, well, we've got one new ship that you haven't seen before at all. So that's just why, because this isn't the first time I've been doing Season 3. And that's why sometimes things will be looking a little different than they usually do. Now, the Defender class light cruiser is interesting. It's interesting. It's an interesting ship, and one that I know a lot about, and one that I can't really tell you anything about, because I think it's surprising how well it does, if you consider everything. But obviously, you know, it's only got low caliber guns, so you can probably guess that there are some things that it just doesn't do anything against. Essentially, if you've got metal, you're probably safe, because this thing can't chew through metal. Also, none of the CWIS guns on here are like particularly fast firing either. They're all kind of like a blend between double duty and CWIS, and these ones kind of swing more towards CWIS and less of double duty. Still, it's pretty good. It's got some missiles, got some torpedoes strapped to it, because I forgot about torpedoes, to be honest. So we move to the heavy cruisers now. We got two choices for heavy cruiser. We got this one, which is the Valiant class, which, to be honest, is not that much more expensive than the Defender class over there. Essentially, what the Valiant class brings is some very large guns and not much else. It's got 400mm main guns, which are larger than even our battlecruiser's main guns, but it doesn't really bring anything else. As for armor, it's got none. And by none, what do you mean? I mean, like, it's got literally one layer of armor, and that is it. On the top, it's slightly better. It's got two. It's got a layer of reinforced wood and a layer of metal, but this thing is not really what I would classify as a heavy cruiser anymore. We're going to change this out. We're going to build a new heavy cruiser. The new price bracket for a heavy cruiser is going to be 500,000. 500 to 400,000. So yeah, it's going to be much bigger. It's going to be much better. It's going to carry a lot more guns. It's going to essentially be closer to a ship of the line or, you know, a battleship and stuff like that. Well, this thing is essentially just a light cruiser, but with some slightly bigger guns. Moving on then, we have our next heavy cruiser, which again is still going to be replaced. This is the Brawler class. It's a little bit closer to what I want from a heavy cruiser now, but it's still not quite there. So the Brawler class brings a lot smaller guns, 225mm, sorry, rail guns. We've got 4 of them. We've got a couple of simple weapons there on the side, some torpedoes, of course, because those are mandatory. The Brawler class is not very good. It doesn't really fill the role that I think a heavy cruiser needs to fill in our fleet, which is essentially a heavy cruiser should be able to be a flagship of a small fleet. Like, you should be able to have a heavy cruiser take on other, you know, battleships and battle cruisers. It shouldn't win, but it should be able to take them on. While this thing is more than capable of dealing with light cruisers and destroyers and, like, you know, marauders and some stuff from the Onyx Watch and stuff like that, it's not really where I want a heavy cruiser to be. It's not quite big enough. It's not quite expensive enough. I want a heavy cruiser to be 500,000 to 400,000, so this thing is going to be scrapped at some point. However, since I don't currently have a heavy cruiser to replace it in the fleet, this thing stays for now. For now being the key word. Of course, we've got the Saturn class battleship. We'll just spawn in the Jupiter for now. The Jupiter is still in the fleet in the sense that there is a small possibility that the Jupiter at some point gets made. There are a number of problems with the Jupiter. Most of them are impossible to be fixed, essentially. It's mostly problems with the hull and the armor layout. However, the Jupiter does have the advantage of it brings a lot of guns to bear. And the guns it does have are pretty powerful. So, despite the fact that I've never actually used the Jupiter in a campaign before this, I'm leaving it in here just in case I decide I want a very powerful battleship. A glass cannon, if you will. But, to be quite fair, that's kind of what the battlecruiser is for anyway, so I'm not sure if we'll ever use that, but I'm leaving it in there for now. Moving on, we have the biggest ship in the fleet that we will probably actually ever build, which is the Saturn class battleship. It was the Saturn class dreadnought, but I changed it to be a battleship to make more sense. We got the battlecruiser, and then we have the battleship. Now, this is probably not going to be in the fleet for very long, or if it is in the fleet for very long, it will not be in the fleet at its current form. Because currently, this ship gets absolutely bodied by the King George class half of the time. Which is not what we want, because the King George class is a battlecruiser. This is supposed to be a battleship. This is supposed to win against the King George class and win, like, easily. It's 1 million materials. The King George is only 800,000. So, 200,000 materials more went into this than that. This thing is supposed to body it, but it doesn't. It, like, barely wins, and sometimes it loses. And that's just not acceptable. So, essentially, the entire innards have to be stripped out. And I'm just currently trying to decide at the moment, and maybe you guys can help me, if it's worth stripping out the innards of the battleship, or if I should just build a new hull and just start from square one. I will say that this battleship's been upgraded since you last saw it. It's got this new bow on the front to bring it up to spec with all the rest of the fleet now. Not that one, but all the rest of the new fleets. And it has, you know, the inboard propellers, everything. I strengthened the armor on the sides significantly. It's now 3 extra blocks thick. It is a beefy boy. However, it still has the problem where if you shoot one of the Seaver's guns, they all explode. And, yeah, that's a large issue and one which will not be easily solved. So, the Saturn class perhaps will be on the sidelines for now. Moving on then, we have the bigger ship. The ship which will probably never be used, ever, because even spawning this in puts me immediately into degraded mode. However, I love this ship. It kind of embodies what I want my fleet to be, which is just a huge, are you sure you want to do this? This is the Neptune class, sorry, HMCS Dauntless, and she is a beast. She is equipped with quite a good Seawiz gun here. A lot of them spread around. We got a lot of simple weapons, some anti-aircraft guns, and then these large, absolutely massive 393mm main guns. You got 3 of those spread out. The armor is so thick that you will probably never be able to mine your way through it, even if you used, you know, an explosion that is 290,000 damage. She is just nigh on invincible. And I know, like, oh, invincible like the Titanic. No, I mean she's just invincible. Like, you would struggle to bring this to bear. If I managed to build this in the campaign, there is nothing that the AI could build to stop me. This ship is just impossible to beat for the AI. I believe humans could destroy it. You know, if you actually had any experience From the Depths, but this thing is a beast. Moving on then, the other advantage with this ship, above all other ships, is that it's not actually a ship, it's an all-terrain vehicle. There is nowhere where you can hide where this battleship, this dreadnought, cannot find you. And when it does, it will murder you painfully and slowly. However, it's 2 million materials, even more than that actually, it's 2.6 million. So the odds of me actually ever building this are slim to none. But I keep it in the fleet on the off chance that we have, you know, 2 million materials to spare and we need something to build. And then we can build this. However, it immediately puts everything into degraded mode, so I probably never will. That, at the moment, is our fleet. This is what we're bringing to bear against the AI. This is what they have to deal with. Hopefully, we can win. Well, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye for now.